Hi everyone, it is me, Sailor Saturn Ataru here, and today we're going to talk about, well, the hate that Sailor Moon, Steek, and Cloverway had. Well, why I'm going to talk about this one more time, because it tends to come up a lot. Need be more times than it truly should come up. So, I guess we will say that hate would be a too strong a word for it. You know. But let me tell you the grounds to why, what folks don't like about it. Well, first off, folks tend to make a big deal about things like the names being shifted. You know, they can't understand why their Dawnlandish borrowed names were shifted out for either Latinus, Hellenist, Spanish, Hebrews, or even Farsius, borrowed names. They can't understand that. You see, in their mind, they believe that they believe since English borrowed names from other speeches, they believed that included the Dawnlandish names. So some of them were borrowed, but not as many. But most folks speaking English would know those borrowed names more than they would know the other borrowed names. But they make a big deal out of it. And they also seem to make a big deal out of anyone who chooses to call them by those borrowed names and not the other borrowed names. You know? Another thing that they tend to make a big deal out of are stead names being shifted. Well, first off, I don't know why they make a big deal out of that, but they do. You know, they'll talk about the stead names being shifted as if they lived there. Well, first off, you don't live there, so I don't know why you're making a big deal about the stead name being shifted. But they do. They also make a big deal about the show playing. And when I mean show playing, I mean speaking playing. When someone is speaking for someone. Or, wording for someone, whatever you want to say it. And they don't think they were good. You know? For whatever mind in their head, they don't think they were good. And they make a big deal about that. Why? Who knows? Not up to their standard. And if you thought that those were the only things that they bitched about, you would be wrong. Other things that they make a big deal out of include why a lot of the other fighting was cut out. Yeah, there was a lot more fighting, and it was cut out of many of the fighting in the show, and they make a big deal out of what they did not see. You know? So, that's what also irks them. You know? And when it gets down to the unstraight, they behave as if that was, handled the wrong way. You know, in their mind, I know that nowadays it's not a big deal anymore and it should have never been a big deal. But back in the day, folks made a big deal about anyone who was playing someone who was unstraight. And they made a big deal out of that back in the day, and these folks think that Deke should have just kept it in. Yeah, well, would say that they did, and those folks would have made a big deal out of it. So whatever the grounds was, they feel that Zoisite becoming a woman and Sarah Uranus and Sailor Neptune being near kin in their mind, they think that was badly handled. No, there could have been many other ways they could have handled it. But whatever, they make a big deal about that. See, when it comes to the Deke offshoot of Sailor Moon and the Cloverway offshoot of Sailor Moon, nothing meets their standard. You know, when it comes to the Pioneer or Path Seeker Sailor Moon, nothing meets their standard there either. What a lot of these folks like to do is they like to take the Viz one and say that's the one they should have gotten back in the day. And for a lot of these angry, irked Sailor Moon followers, yeah, that's the one they wish they had back in the day. Well, too bad they didn't get that one back in the day, so they like to take it out on anyone else. Well, ever since the Viz one came out, a lot of these, they have given up. But nowadays, what they do is, and a lot of these folks in their mind like to behave as if Sailor Moon was the only live drawing show to ever be skimmed or cleaned or cut or whatever. They came from Dawnland or whatever, but that's not true. I could go through many other ones out there and they wouldn't say the same thing. You know? And also, when we're getting on it, they like to also say that if you like the Deacon Cloverway one, you're not a true Sailor Moon follower. And then they bring up as if you didn't see all the other ones. Yeah, well, I saw the Cloverway and the Viz one, so I could tell you they're all good in their own way. One is not greater than the other. But that's what they believe, and that's their belief. And why do I make a big deal out of these things they get angry over? Because I don't understand why they make a big deal out of them. But they do. You know? So, at the end of the day, where did the hate come from? Well, you can't only hate. There has to be a ground, sake or why, for where the hate came from. What my belief is that they grew up watching the Deke one. And at the time, they didn't really know what Sailor Moon was. And it wasn't until they got on the interweb, and I'm going to say, need be, they probably looked it up at their Learn or the Book House, or years later, they got their own reckoner and they looked it up, and they're like, oh, so that's where Deke made their shift from. Or, oh, that's where Cloverway made their shift from. And that's where their hatred of the Deke and Cloverway one came from. And then for years, that's where the hatred came from, and that's where they started, getting all their things they scathed it for, and that's where they started year gating. No, that's when they started gatekeeping. Sorry about that, because they started gatekeeping on anyone who liked the Deke and Cloverway one, and anyone that had an unlike take on it that wasn't the same from theirs. Well, I'm gonna tell you something right now. Yes, they do have the right to feel that way. They do have the right to hate it. But that's their belief. They got no truth to back up which one is the good one, which one's the bad one. And still this day, the things that they bitch and rant about and are angry over, I don't think they're big deals. And that's all the time I got here. If you like this film, watch us over here at Sailor Moon for Life. Well, that's the other film we made yesterday over here, where Sailor and Neptune talking about how her eBay so either kept or lost everything. I, Sailor Saturn Taru, and I'll see you later. Bye.